latest Dumping with Scrump, we discussed in detail the 2.5-year firestorm the media has been leveling at President Trump for having the audacity to win the 2016 election. And finally, we've learned that there's no evidence of the Russian connection, despite the constant insistence of both the establishment and the verified lefterinos, that Putin is somehow behind everything. How Russophobic of them. But in their extreme single-mindedness to somehow, some way delegitimize Trump, how much collateral damage have these people done precisely? In the PJ Media opinion piece, the American media destroyed themselves over the Mueller investigation. Well, do I really need to go past that headline? With only a few exceptions, Fox News, the editorial pages, not the front pages, of the Wall Street Journal, and a handful of websites, the better part of the American media has spent the last 2 years fulminating about the Trump-Russia collusion we now know never existed. Actually, we always knew that. But finally, it's official. It was always a bunch of, excuse the expression, trumped-up baloney that made no sense, except to those who wished so deeply for it to be true. Which makes the people who were doing that fulminating, media, politicians, and usually retired intelligence figures, who were, as is becoming increasingly clear, betraying the American constitutional system with impunity, sick and evil. In my opinion, this is an accurate description of the actions and motivations of these people. Trump was their target, and anything else they had to destroy to get to him, so much the better. They deserved it for getting in the way of such a just crusade, right? Well, first of all, a lot of these idiots just straight up destroyed themselves. Like, I stopped going to the gym because of Trump, now I can't open jars. Or, I wrote 12 hit pieces against Trump, I need help. Or the thousands of cases of Trump anxiety disorder, which I would personally call Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, how else would you explain away a woman who carries around a tiny plastic Obama in her purse? But it's not just them. Here's some homework that an 11-year-old had to complete. Judith from the Bobbin Girl was the advocate, promoting better conditions for women working in the mills. The bully continued his taunting and teasing because instead of sticking up for the victim, others showed total indifference. President Trump speaks in a very superior and blank manner, insulting many people. He needs to be more blank so that the American people respect and admire him. What the fuck? How is this acceptable at all? Schools should be relatively apolitical, especially regarding currently sitting officials, at least until the university level. At university, sure. Debate the merits of politics, that's what the university is for. But by then, the students will have learned at least some of the skills to have that debate. An 11-year-old isn't able to fully think critically yet. This homework is indoctrination, not debate. And speaking of kids, Joshua Trump's name got him bullied. Now the 6th grader is going to the State of the Union. Bullying a kid for having the exact same last name as Donald Trump is exactly the kind of behavior I'd expect from a political persuasion that screams about diversity and inclusion, but the minute anybody steps out of line, it's bring back bullying all the way down. Joshua Trump, a 6th grade student who is not related to the president, drew headlines last year after his parents went public to share stories of the abuse they said he had suffered because of his last name. They curse at him, they call him an idiot, they call him stupid, his mother said. And you might say, well, it's just dumb kids at school being dumb. Fair enough. But as soon as Joshua got the State of the Union invitation, as soon as his story went viral, lefty Twitter decided to pounce all over the poor kid. Read these messages. Read these fucking messages. This is no way to treat an innocent child. If Joshua is an incel in training, it's because all of you assholes have deigned it acceptable to treat him like this for no reason. It's no secret that social media has destroyed itself in the broad censorship of conservative or right-leaning political positions. Twitter and Facebook are cesspools of bland drivel at this point, where the overbearing censors ban speech in the name of conversational health, or label memes and jokes dehumanizing speech. When Twitter allowed a false DMCA takedown of one of Donald Trump's videos on his own Twitter account, a video that was fair use, they proved that they're willing to censor anybody for any reason, as long as they can twist a reason to fit their purposes. That video in question, the one that Trump posted, it's a joke video using a song by R.E.M., using tweets that R.E.M. put out in support of Democrats. When R.E.M. made those tweets, they became a part of the parody expressed in the video. That's fair use. In fact, R.E.M. themselves stated in another tweet, so the meme's fair use, I love the First Amendment. Meme away, folks. But that takes nothing away from what a fraudulent con man that Donald Trump is. Oh yeah, that justifies it, right? It's fair use, and an unlawful DMCA takedown is highly illegal. But Orange Man bad, so it's okay now. With any luck, something will finally come of this, because YouTube, Twitter, all of it is a mire of false DMCA claims. And at the very least, we know that Donald Trump Jr. is aware of the REM situation and wants to see something done about it.
I started it this summer when everyone said thank you very much, when everyone said I was crazy. And,
Let me go through that interview really quick. Tell us about it. Hold on.
I gotta go do something next. We do it later.
Social media bias. You started it last summer.
I started last summer when I got 0 followers, but something like 25 million impressions, and I started calling them out on it. The second I called them out, that stopped for me. The problem is, it's not stopping for little accounts that don't have my soapbox.
No, it's great.
So we gotta push back.
We gotta stop the bias. Hashtag stop the bias, and hopefully your father will put a lot of pressure on these social media companies. So Jack Dorsey.
It's time.
Cross your fingers, pals. All of this stuff, plus I'm sure many other examples of establishment collateral damage, led to Trump straight up saying that the Democrats are bullshitting you.
The Democrats have to now decide whether they will continue defrauding the public with ridiculous bullshit. Partisan investigations, or whether they will apologize to the American people and join us.
Nobody can tell me this is presidential. This is an unhinged maniac screaming like he's running a carnival. No, this is a New York native talking to his working class voter base, using terminology that they can not only intellectually understand, but emotionally resonate with. Maybe this video, as crass as it is, shows exactly why Trump won the election. The establishment bet everything on taking down Trump. It was an all-or-nothing game. Nothing else mattered but Trump's destruction, and wagering their own credibility, their own morality, their own businesses and connections, their privileged place in society and in the minds of the average person. Wagering everything on that bet was to them worth it. But now that it's all said and done, and they've lost all those things, where do the media companies and the radical leftists at their helm go next? Single-mindedness is a very tricky vice to come to grips with. It can feel a lot like dogged persistence, like grit or work ethic, that you're willing to pursue a goal at the expense of all other goals. And indeed, great things come to those who are determined to achieve their goals. But single-mindedness isn't just determination. It's also willful blindness. The Cyclops, in mythology, is a giant lumbering brute with only one eye. It's often portrayed as legendarily powerful, but slow, stupid, with a short attention span and even shorter memory. And hey, single-minded. The idea of the masculine, extremely dangerous but equally dim-witted, one-eyed giant that the hero has to use strategy rather than brute force to overcome is embedded in our society and culture, with modern representations popping up like the Hinox from Legend of Zelda, or the ogres from Warcraft, where the rare two-headed ogre are about as smart as your average human. And frankly, masculine, powerful, single-minded, one eye. The Cyclops is basically a giant penis, let's be real. It seems to me that single-mindedness is a motivational state that, evolutionarily speaking, is probably at least somewhat related to the most basic desires of almost all life forms. Hunger, thirst, rest, mating. This makes it ancient and powerful, but also kind of blind and lumbering, like the Cyclops. And a person who is excessively single-minded in any pursuit can be said to almost be, possessed by a Cyclops. By a one-dimensional sub-personality with its own drives, cognitions, and emotional states. And when this one-dimensionality becomes the totality of the possessed person, it diminishes the person, especially when the all-encompassing pursuit does not line up with the reality of the situation. That only leads to the complete destruction of the person, when the bubble is popped and the real world comes rushing in around them. And that's what Trump derangement syndrome really is. These establishment politicians, these media figureheads, these radical SJWs and these verified accounts, they've all sacrificed everything, including their own personalities, to the goal of tearing Trump down. And although Trump remains relatively unscathed, their single-mindedness has left them, and everything around them, in shambles. A person possessed by a cyclopean personality has only two options: total self-annihilation, or the abandonment of the pursuit that led them down this path to begin with, in order to rebuild their being. Moral of the story, kids: don't become a Cyclops.